There are cities that grow on land, but Dubai decided to do things differently, creating land where there was only sea before. In the early 2000s, the emirate made a decision that seemed straight out of a science fiction movie, to build artificial archipelagos in the middle of the sea, not just small islands, but entire groups, designed in shapes recognizable even from space. A giant palm tree, a complete map of the planet, projects capable of turning the Persian Gulf into a new urban frontier. The promise was monumental: to create kilometers of new beaches, attract millions of tourists, and multiply the real estate value of a city that could become one of the world's top luxury destinations. But along with this ambition came inevitable questions. How far is it possible to alter the geography, the natural geography of a coastline? How much does it cost to sustain islands that simply didn't exist before? Stay with me. In the next few minutes, we'll understand how Dubai decided to build giant islands in the Persian Gulf and why this ambitious project ended up becoming one of the most debated urban experiments of the century. Dubai is located on the coast of the Persian Gulf, a region with relatively shallow waters and an arid climate, despite the vast territory around it. The emirate had a simple problem: it lacked coastline. In the early 2000s, the city had just over 60 kilometers of natural coast. For an economy that wanted to thrive on tourism, hospitality, and luxury beachfront real estate, this physical limit was a bottleneck. The solution was radical. Instead of growing only towards the desert, Dubai decided to expand into the sea. The result was a series of land reclamation projects on an unprecedented scale. The most famous of these works is the Palm Jumeirah, an artificial island shaped like a palm tree, with a central trunk about 2 kilometers long. There are 17 residential fronds and a large crescent-shaped breakwater, which is responsible for protecting the entire structure. And the palm was just the beginning. Soon, even more ambitious projects emerged, like the World Archipelago, made up of hundreds of artificial islands. The big question wasn't just how to build land where there was only open sea before. Besides that, there was another, more important question. Why did Dubai decide to invest so much money, technology, and ambition in artificial islands? That's what we'll see next. The idea of artificial islands came up as part of a very clear strategy. Dubai would have little oil production compared to other places in the Gulf. To ensure long-term economic growth, the government decided to turn the city into a global center for tourism, business, and real estate investment. For that, something was needed that would stand out, attract worldwide attention. That's when the proposal for the Palm of Mara came up. According to reports from that time, the ruler of Dubai himself, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid, is said to have drawn the shape of the palm tree as an efficient way to maximize the amount of waterfront. The concept was simple and brilliant at the same time. Each frond would function as a residential street, with houses on both sides and direct access to the beach, creating hundreds of extremely valuable lots. In total, the project would add about 56 kilometers of new coastline to the emirate, and the market responded immediately. The first plots were sold in just a few days, attracting investors from all over the world. It was the real estate euphoria of the 2000s. Celebrities started buying private islands, billionaires were planning exclusive resorts, and the world watched in fascination as a city seemed capable of building anything. But while sales were moving quickly, engineering faced a gigantic challenge: turning billions of tons of sand into stable land in the middle of the sea. This is exactly the point where the story enters its most impressive phase. 2 decades after the start of construction, Dubai's artificial islands now present a mixed scenario. Palm Jumeirah has become one of the most famous addresses in the world, filled with hotels, resorts, and luxury residences. The World Archipelago, on the other hand, spent years practically abandoned, with many empty islands. Palm Jumeirah, on the other hand, was paralyzed after the global financial crisis, and has only recently started receiving investments for its completion again. But understanding this outcome requires going back to the beginning of the construction. Creating an artificial island of this size starts with a process called dredging. Specialized ships travel along the seabed, sucking up sand through large suction pipes. This material is then transported and dumped on the sand where the island will be formed. In the case of Palm Jumeirah, hundreds of millions of cubic meters of sand were taken from the bottom of the Persian Gulf and repositioned with extreme precision. To ensure that the design of the palm was maintained, the vessels used advanced global positioning systems, allowing them to distribute the material with great precision. But piling sand in the sea doesn't automatically create solid ground. Right after the initial deposit, the soil still behaves like an unstable mass, subject to sinking and shifting. To solve this problem, engineers turned to a geotechnical technique called vibrocompaction. This method involves inserting large metal vibrators into the newly formed soil. These machines go several meters deep and vibrate at high frequency, rearranging the sand grains and increasing the density of the ground. At Palm Jumeirah, more than 200,000 compaction points were executed, some reaching depths of up to 12 meters. Without this process, the soil could take decades to reach natural stability. Meanwhile, another front of construction was advancing around the island, the building of the gigantic protective breakwater. This protective ring is about 11 kilometers long and was built with millions of tons of rock. Its function is to absorb the energy of the Gulf waves and protect the internal structures from erosion. However, the breakwater brought an unexpected challenge. By protecting the interior of the island too much, it ended up reducing the natural circulation of water. This could cause stagnation and deterioration of the environmental quality of the internal lagoons. To solve the problem, engineers created large openings in the breakwater, allowing ocean currents to renew the water around the fronds. With the geotechnical base stabilized, the urbanization phase then began. Palm Jumeirah received complete infrastructure, power networks, desalinated water systems, sewage treatment plants, and roads connecting all areas of the island. One of the most impressive elements is the submerged tunnel, which connects the trunk of Palm Jumeirah to the outer crescent. This structure is about 1.4 kilometers long and was built inside a large temporary dike, which allowed the area to be drained during construction. In addition, an exclusive transportation system was installed, the Palm Monorail, an elevated train that runs for about 5 kilometers, connecting the entrance of the island to the famous Atlantis Hotel. In total, more than 40,000 workers and dozens of companies took part in the construction of Palm Jumeirah. When the first houses and hotels began to appear, it seemed that Dubai had achieved something almost impossible, turning the sea into a new city. But the true impact of these islands can only be understood when we look at the economic scale involved. After understanding how these islands were built, an inevitable question arises. How much does it cost to turn the ocean into urban territory? The answer reveals numbers as gigantic as the ambition of the project itself. The estimated cost of Palm Jumeirah is often cited at around $12 billion. Considering the exchange rate of the American currency at the time this documentary was completed. This represents something close to 63 billion reais invested just to create an artificial island in the Persian Gulf. But numbers of this magnitude are not easy to visualize, so it's worth translating this scale into everyday examples. With 63 billion reais, it would be possible to buy approximately 840,000 popular cars, each costing 75,000 reais. That's practically enough to renew the entire vehicle fleet of a major Brazilian capital. 315,000 affordable homes at 200,000 reais each, enough to house an entire medium-sized city. If the investment were directed toward urban mobility, the amount could finance approximately 65 kilometers of underground subway, based on the cost per kilometer in the expansion of Line 4 in São Paulo. The physical scale of the project is as impressive as the financial figures. Palm Jumeirah has about 700 hectares of reclaimed land, which is equivalent to almost 1,000 soccer fields. The World Archipelago, on the other hand, takes the scale to another level. The complex covers more than 5,000 hectares, an urban scale comparable to that of entire compact cities, which has already been described as equivalent to almost 7 times the area of Venice. To form these islands, engineers moved something around 320 million cubic meters of sand and 25 million tons of rock. But when projects reach this monumental scale, the consequences also tend to be equally large. Despite the visual and touristic success of Palm Jumeirah, Dubai's artificial islands have also faced a series of challenges over the years. The first of these arose during construction. The massive dredging altered the natural balance of the seabed. Suspended sediments increased the water's turbidity, affecting marine habitats and nearby reefs. Another challenge came from the very nature of artificial islands. Unlike natural land, these structures require constant maintenance. Over time, the movement of the waves removes some of the sand from the beaches. In 2023, for example, a major restoration project had to reposition almost 2 million cubic meters of sand to restore sections of the Palm Jumeirah coastal island. But the hardest blow came from the financial market. The 2008 crisis hit Dubai's real estate sector hard. Investments disappeared, financing was suspended, and several projects were halted. The World Archipelago became a symbol of this monument. For years, many of its islands remained empty, turning the place into a huge collection of sandbanks, isolated from the sea. Even so, Dubai never completely abandoned the idea. In recent years, a new wave of investments has once again hit the city's luxury real estate market. Part of the World Archipelago has started to receive new resorts, while Palm Jebel Ali was officially relaunched as part of the Dubai 2040 Urban Plan. The new project covers about 13.4 square kilometers of area, more than 110 additional kilometers of coastline, and space for approximately 35,000 families. It remains to be seen whether this new phase will be able to avoid the mistakes of the past. Dubai's artificial islands represent one of the boldest urban experiments in modern history. They show how far engineering can go when ambition, technology, and capital come together, but they also reveal the limits of that same ambition. Between impressive successes and interrupted projects, Dubai has turned the sea into urban territory and sparked a global debate about how far we should go to build the cities of the future. Thanks for watching until the end. What are your thoughts on Dubai's massive artificial islands? Do you see this as a positive or negative outcome for the economy of a city like this? Leave your opinion in the comments. I'll stop here. A big hug and see you in the next video.